Welcome back in here to Live Now from Fox. I am Andy Mack. This next story has me asking myself, what year is it? The 2028 presidential election is more than 3 years out, but some potential candidates are already meeting voters in some early key primary states. And as we know, the race for the White House is a marathon, not a sprint. California Governor Gavin Newsom is one of those potential candidates. We're being joined right now by Fox's Asher Red as he follows the Democrat on a 2-day tour of rural South Carolina. Thank you so much for joining us from Lawrence, South Carolina in the Palmetto State. What did you hear from Newsom? What was his message to voters a long way out?
Well, good evening, Andy. Gavin Newsom, a Democrat from California, traveled all the way here to rural South Carolina to pitch his political views to historically Republican voters. Now, this church behind me is where his last event of the day just wrapped up, and he's already headed back to California. But Newsom isn't the only one who seems to be testing the waters of a possible presidential bid. For many, it feels like the 2024 campaign just ended, but that's not stopping potential candidates from getting an early start on 2028.
I need some coffee.
If Governor Newsom does decide to run for president, an official announcement likely won't come for quite some time. But that didn't stop the California Democrat from bringing his message to voters in rural South Carolina this week.
The question is, how do we not only repair the party brand, but repair this nation, and how do we move from a defensive posture to an inspiring vision? And so that has to also be the project that occurs concurrently as we push back against Trump and Trumpism.
Newsom told people in South Carolina that the country needs less political polarization, and that's something a lot of voters here are thinking about too.
I think the polarization isn't going to end, which is why we need strong Democrats to combat that.
Other Democrats stirring speculation about potential White House runs include Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. He spoke at a Democratic fundraiser in New Hampshire in April. In May, former Transportation Secretary and 2020 Democratic candidate Pete Buttigieg held a town hall in Iowa.
There's also no natural front runners in the Democratic Party. You know, they kind of have a spotty bench. It's a little bit anybody's game if you can get out there and build a reputation.
Some political analysts say the early bird approach could help candidates build name recognition while they test out their pitch to voters.
Some of what's going on, I think, probably too, is political messaging. And, you know, what works and what doesn't work and what resonates with people.
And Republicans are also heading to early primary states as well. Just later this summer, Governor Glenn Youngkin of Virginia is expected to speak at events both in Iowa and right here in South Carolina. Andy?
All right, thank you so much. It's always interesting when we see these potential candidates always make stops coincidentally in early primary states. Gavin Newsom, though, has pushed back that he's not seeking a bid for the White House, right?
Yeah, he did reiterate he's not publicly at least, seeking any Oval Office position. As of right now, obviously that could change, especially if he flew from California all the way here to South Carolina to do this. But in 2026, think about it, Governor Newsom will be out of a job practically because he is term limited for governor of California. We asked him if he thinks Kamala Harris would take his position, and he said he doesn't know that either, but he wouldn't be surprised.
All right, very good. My last question before I let you go, because we know what happened in terms of the Democratic Party after Joe Biden dropped out. Were there any questions about why he didn't campaign, why he didn't step in to try to earn a bid just this last cycle?
In the words of Governor Newsom, he said Democrats were licking their wounds after what happened with that. He was saying it was a little too late for Biden to step out of the race when he did, and for Kamala to come in, for Kamala Harris to come in. But he did say that right now they're starting to reevaluate what they're doing to put the Democratic Party in another direction, to put the party less on the defensive and more in front of how voters might think and be more proactive about what's going on in the future.
And that's maybe why they're stepping out there in the limelight, in the spotlight, 3 years out from this next presidential cycle. All right, thank you so much, Asher. I appreciate your time here on Live Now.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, great reporting as always. As you heard, some of those potential candidates in their bid for the White House, Gavin Newsom amongst the names, J.B. Pritzker, the Illinois governor, Pete Buttigieg, the former mayor of South Bend, Indiana, transportation secretary, also Ruben Gallego, the Arizona senator, making a stop in Iowa. And it's always interesting, like I mentioned, just the coincidental nature of some of these individuals making stops in key swing states, early primary states, testing the water, so to speak, even though they will not say that directly to any reporters or voters on the ground.